Hey folks, thank you for clicking on the link to this that I posted in Teams. I would have liked to have had this ready for you along with that first task last week, but I'm old. I don't know how to make videos for the YouTube, so I had to use this Loom tech. This is, trust me, about as technical as this is ever going to get, but I felt like using the video format might help with a little bit sort of interactivity with you, and I plan on using it to introduce tasks and also do some feedback. So hopefully this works. What I want to do here is the intro to Higher Media. Some of you have seen this PowerPoint because I popped it up on the previous team, which was mostly last year's National 5 pupils in there. So, but obviously I'm going to try and deliver this almost as I could have if we were going to have our first class together. And so I'll be reading some parts of it out, but I'll have some extra things to talk to you about as well as we go through this. So obviously, thanks for picking Higher Media. It's a good class, quite a big class this year, and a number of you are carrying on from National 5 last year and have a year of media under your belts, and some of you are picking it up for the first time in S6 as a crash higher subject. I always put the word crash in the scare quotes because, I don't know, crash sounds like a bad thing, and crashing a subject is a challenge, but I don't know, I feel a bit bad calling it a crash, but that's what people call it, crashing a subject. So let's go through this a little bit, and I'll have some different things and different messages for specific people to listen to as we go through this. So let's just start with the purpose of the course. So media is a creative subject that brings together a whole range of skills from lots of different curriculum areas. I usually say to people, it's a little bit of English, it's a little bit of modern studies, a little bit of art and design, a little bit of business, and those tend to be the kind of crossover areas that work for people. So whether you're studying it for the first time or you've progressed through National 5, media allows you to engage with the real world in a way that is both meaningful and practical. You examine professional content and take on the role of a producer to create your own content. So let's start here. So I've said there, our old friends, the key aspects of media. If you did Nat 5 last year, you will know exactly what I'm talking about here. The National 5 course is split into 7 sort of units of work based around these key aspects, and there are different texts that are used for one of them. Maybe there's a text that we use for 2 or 3 of them at once, and we try and create a sort of robust knowledge of these key aspects of media. So right away there is going to be a little bit of a difference there for people, because for some people they've spent a year doing this stuff and they're going to be very sort of on board with the language, the terminology, and what it all means. And for some of the people who are doing the crash, it's going to be something new. It's going to be something different, and you're going to have to try and catch up with that as you go. So categories: narrative, language, representation, audience, institutions, and society. So just a little bit of revision or new information, depending on what angle you're coming at this work from. So categories, this could include form, medium, genre, style, tone, or purpose. Categories refer to the way that media content is sorted into different types. Narrative, here you will use codes, conventions, and theories to analyse story. You will also see how these affect the audience that consumes them. Language doesn't mean quite the same thing as it does in English. Here you examine things like cameras, camera angles, camera movement, mise en scène, French for everything on the screen, so colour, costume, lighting, things like that. You also look at sound, editing, fonts, so on, lots of different things that you can look at under language. This obviously matters when you are analysing existing content like a film or a TV show, but it also helps when you're creating your own content, when you become the producer / director / writer of your final assignment. So representation, so that is broadly how people, places and events are depicted. It also helps you examine the underlying message or ideas held by the producers. So for the people who did Nat 5 last year, you remember that for representation, we looked at things like representation of gender identity in The Silence of the Lambs through the character of Buffalo Bill. We looked at depictions and representations of race in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So lots of different ways that you can approach representations, and we'll do different versions of that this year as well. Audience is where you look at audience targeting and audience readings, and you will learn about demographics as well. So target audiences can be very broad. We're targeting men. Or it can be very specific. We're targeting women aged 25 to 30 who are interested in this product. The audience readings, preferred, negotiated, and oppositional. So that is when you analyse how audiences have reacted to a media text. Did they take the preferred reading? Have they taken what the media producer has created and said, yeah, good, yeah, we agree, we're in? Have they a negotiated reading? Have they said, well, I kind of agree with this bit of it, but maybe not that bit. I liked this, but I didn't like that. Or is it an oppositional reading where they've said, no, I completely reject your hypothesis. I've got no interest in what it is you're trying to say to me with your media text. So that's audiences in a nutshell. Institutions, the companies, the conglomerates that are behind the scenes. Who owns the media that we're looking at? Who controls it? In what ways could what we see be affected by this ownership and control? And in what ways are internal and external factors of production affecting what it is we finally see on screen? So institutions. Quite a lot of research involved in that and looking into a media text. Some of you may have done a film for your critical essay in English, but we go much deeper than just the sort of language elements and themes and characters and things like that. We look at the business side of it as well. And then society. So that's thinking about the historical time and cultural context of the production of the content. So what about when and where something was made affected what was made? So I used this example last year because it's not necessarily one that we would approach in the subject. But if you remember when the sitcom Friends was put on to Netflix in January 2018, there were a lot of think pieces written by journalists kind of saying, oh, Friends was really sexist, or oh, Friends is really homophobic, oh, Friends has a race problem, and you see articles like that. And I think that there's that way to react to it, but the other way is to think about, well, why has that happened? Like, what was going on then in the 90s and early 2000s where that would happen, and why is it different now? Like, my point that I made last year was that if a sitcom with 6 friends was being cast now, I think it's highly unlikely that all 6 of them would be middle class white people. I don't think that would happen. I think that the way that the media representation in society combined is working just now is that we're focusing a lot more on equality of representation. So, which is what it is. These are questions and debates that we'll hopefully get to have in class sometime soon. Now, this little bit in the video is specifically for the people who are crashing the subject. Now, before we went on lockdown and the school closed, I got a list of people who had picked higher media, and what I did was I created a Microsoft Teams for those people, and so far I have posted tasks for them to do for key aspect categories and for key aspect narrative, and I'm going to go on and post a task for each of the 7 so that they have a sort of base understanding of them. I can't teach the whole Nat 5 course remotely in May and June, and I can't really redo Nat 5 alongside higher when we're back together in the classroom because we have to do the higher stuff as well. So what I'm going to do once I've posted this video and given people enough time to watch it is I'm going to put the Teams code in our new group. So for those of you who are crashing higher and have not been added to that team, you can add yourself using the code, and then you can go in and you can access those tasks. You can complete them sort of at your own leisure. I did sort of give deadlines for the people that are in there at the moment in that team, just to kind of, keep us ticking over, and it's usually every 2 or 3 weeks. So you can get yourselves in there and do those tasks. I really think it's a good idea, especially when we're not at school just now, and maybe you're looking for stuff to get you ready. And I think that it would be a good way to. It's not going to replicate a year of Nat 5 media, but it's going to put you in a better position to do well and be more successful at higher. So after I posted this video, I'll wait a wee bit and I'll put in the Teams code for people that want to go and access that material as well. And for the people who have already been in there working very hard, your next key aspect task will be up quite soon. So, moving on a little bit. What are we trying to do with the higher media course? Give you the ability to analyse and create media content appropriate to purpose, audience and context, to improve your knowledge and understanding of the key aspects of media literacy, so that stuff that I was just talking about. A knowledge and understanding of the role of media within society. So this is something that's unique to Hire. This was related to the first task that I've posted, and some people have had a wee go at already. Something that's a little bit more complicated because it involves a lot more sort of politics and news media. Studying the media is not just a case of just watching films and writing about them. There is more to do than just that, although we do get to do a bit of that, which is fun. The ability to plan and research when creating media content as appropriate to purpose, audience and context, and the ability to self-evaluate. So being able to look at something that you've done and point out what is good about it and what could be better next time. Self-evaluation is a great skill, great life skill to have. So in terms of analysing media content, similarly to last year, we will have different media texts that we'll look at various points in the year. I just stuck some random posters up there for films that have been particularly written about in the last 12 months. So you might not have seen them, but there are films that are sort of conversation starters. So Parasite, the film that won Best Picture at the Oscars, the first foreign language film to win Best Picture, which some people read as a sort of allegory for class warfare in South Korea. Joker, which, for better or worse, regardless of what you thought about it, generated a lot of headlines and a lot of think pieces and articles and an audience deconstruction of how people reacted to that film and that character is quite interesting. Marriage Story, which is a film that's available now on Netflix if you're looking for something to watch, with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, spawned 1,000 memes and was also a bit of an awards contender, not as big as Parasite, but a film that had a lot of people writing about representation of divorcing parents and families that are struggling. So I think one of the important things to do, and we're not allowed to go anywhere, so we might as well, is trying to expand our viewing. I can't tell you specifically right now what films we're going to look at in a bit more depth on the course, because that really needs, there's issues of access there. Like, I don't want to pick something that everybody can't get. So I would say that the best thing to do just now is just try and expand what it is that you're watching and consuming. So there's in the PowerPoint version of this, which I'll post on Teams, there's links there to lots of lists. So the IMDb Top 250 is like a user-generated list of the 250 greatest films of all time, according to the users of the Internet Movie Database. The Sight and Sound poll for the greatest films of all time, so that's a poll that's created by asking filmmakers, so directors and critics. So it's quite a different list to the IMDb Top 250. And then last September, The Guardian posted their best films and TV programmes of the 21st century. So some of them you might have seen. A lot of them existed in your lifetime. They're not all old, dusty black and white movies. Not that there's anything wrong with old, dusty black and white movies. I'll convince you of that at some point, I'm sure. So yeah, if you're looking for something to watch and to expand your film viewing, then those lists would be good places to start. So just to talk about this, analysing media content, at a higher level, you're expected to do this in a detailed and complex way. So people that sat in that 5 last year, they know that I really push for detail and complexity of thought, and it's going to be pushing you a little bit further again this year at Higher to make sure that you're writing about these things like categories, narrative, representation, language, audience, institution, society, that you're writing about them in a very interesting, detailed and complex way. And I'll show you examples and we'll do tasks and things, and so it's nothing to worry about. It's just, putting out the expectations at the start. There's also creating media content. So in this element of the course, the assignment this year, you are responsible for making a media product. So that can be a short film, minutes long, filmed on your iPhone is perfectly fine. A short documentary, a film poster, or well, in actual fact, a series of posters, an advertising campaign, a product advert. Sorry, I'm not really editing the videos, so they're just gonna have just stay hydrated. It's important. So, and then you'll write a between 3 and 5,000 word report that goes along with that. So, this is broken down into 3 main areas: planning, research, and then making and evaluating this product. So you'll need to work with others and have conversations with other people in the class and find out what they're doing. So hopefully your teamwork skills will be boosted by that as well. You'll have to engage with technology to create your product. So you might learn a new skill. And the key aspects that I mentioned before, those 7 areas, are really helpful for how to organise your ideas. So for people that did the assignment last year, they'll know that we storyboarded the opening sequence of a film. A storyboard, for those that are not familiar with the term, it's kind of like a comic strip that's drawn panel by panel that lays out the shots of a film and the order in which they're going to be made. And directors use them for very different things. Some of them storyboard their whole movie and they have it all in their head exactly what every shot's going to be. Sometimes they're used to help the visual effects department or the lighting department, so they can see in advance roughly what they want the film to look like, or what CGI, for example, and where that will feature in the film as well. So at Hire, though, we have to create something more than just a storyboard. It has to be a product. So I had 2 Hire candidates last year, got more this year, which is great. They decided to design a series of film posters to advertise a horror film. So they had to make 3 posters as part of an advertising campaign. And those 2 pupils were really into art and design. They took that through to Hire. So they didn't use fancy technology. They used Microsoft Publisher to create their posters, but they were really good and they looked fantastic. So you can do that. I mentioned there like a sort of tech restriction. So unfortunately, I don't have a big cupboard full of expensive digital cameras for you to make movies. I don't have a big exciting editing suite. But if you wanted to make a short film or short documentary on your iPhone that you film on the phone and then use free editing apps to edit and piece together, that's absolutely fine. You are assessed on the 3 to 5,000 word report that you write, not just on the actual quality of the product itself. It's about the self-evaluation and the creative processes, and you get to write in your report about what would you have done, what would you have done better had you had access to better technology. So this is something that will seem like a big task. I think at the start of National 5 last year, a lot of people were like, oh god, I'll never be able to create a storyboard and and write the report to go with it, and everybody did. Everybody got there, and I'm very confident that everybody will get here with this. But it's a big task. As I said in my first post on Teams, higher media is not an easy subject to pick up. It's not the easiest of subjects to move on from that 5 with ease. It's a challenge, as it should be. If it was easy, then wouldn't be as much fun. Wouldn't be as much of a challenge, which is hopefully what we'll all raise to. So, what does the exam look like this year? So this is new information for the old Nat 5 gang, and new information for the new people to the class as well. So the external exam is divided into 3 parts. 2 question papers this time, not just 1, 2 question papers for hire, and the assignment. Total available marks is 130 marks across all 3 elements. So the 2 papers are paper 1, analysis of media content, where we analyse content and context. So that's where we write about the films, TV programmes, newspaper articles, news stories, documentaries, and things that we've looked at in class. And paper 2 is the role of the media, which is this new element that I've already started giving you work to build your skills for. So 50 marks for analysis of media content, 20 marks for role of media. And I would say, as I said last year, you will be expected to write way more in the higher media exam than you will in a higher English exam. People seem to be surprised about that, so I just want to be upfront about it. There's a lot of writing. It's a long exam, as you can see here up top. So paper 1 is 2.5 hours. You get 2.5 hours to answer 2 questions on analysis of content and context. So in the Nat 5 paper, those kind of skills are spread out across 5 different questions worth less marks. But now you go in there, you get 2 questions, they're worth 20 marks each. It's effectively writing 2 critical essays. So like the ones that you would write for your critical reading paper in English. So you go in, 2 essays, and then 1 question for unseen textual analysis. So last year you had 1 film poster to analyse that you've never seen before, and at higher you get 2. So 2.5 hours to do that. Then you come out, have a break, chill, get a coffee or tea, and then you go back in for paper 2, which is 1 hour long, and that's your role of media 20-mark essay that you have to write in 1 hour. So 2.5 hours, a break, then another hour for paper 2. So it's a lot of information, but as you know, you usually get given all this stuff at the start of the year, then you return to it when appropriate to remind you of all the things that you've got to do. This is what the questions look like in paper 1. So the language that's used in it relates to the key aspects. You'll see there already like institutional factors influence categories, language and narrative in question 1, or question 2, representations influenced by society and content, audiences and how they're targeted, etc., etc. You can look at the PowerPoint, or you can pause this and look at the questions to see what they look like. So for those new to media, you'll see that they're not specific to a text. They are very much like the critical essay questions in English, where you bring your knowledge of a text to the question and respond to it appropriately. And each question, they always have sort of 2 sections, so your 20 marks is split 10-10 between 2 different things you have to do in this extended bit of writing. But we'll do lots of work together. I'll show you examples of what a good answer looks like, and it seems like a lot, especially for people new to the subject. But we will get there. We will get there. And there is the poster question. It's almost the same as the National 5 one, except obviously instead of making 10 observations about one poster, what they're looking for you to do is to make 5 points of analysis that refer to a key aspect across both posters. So how both of them use a similar thing in how they use that one thing in a similar way or a different way, and comparing and contrasting. So you see here posters for Ghost Stories and Truth or Dare, 2 sort of horror thriller movies that came out in the same year. So I think the year before this they used the posters for Black Panther and Thor. So there's usually like a thematic link. Horror films here, last time superhero films. So, but again, we'll do practice and we will look at what good answers look like and work together to make sure that we can do that part of it as well. So that's the role of the media question. So that's the second paper, paper 2. What does it look like? So you can have a wee look, and I'm not going to bore you by just reading this stuff out that you can see on the screen yourself, but this is quite new, as I said before, so it's just a couple of years of the SQA running this question for role of media. You'll note that they encourage you to use different media content, so we'll look at specific content that's just for role of media that you wouldn't use in those other 2 questions that you do in the other paper. But you'll see there, like at the bottom where it asks you about what you have to do in your response, detailed information, specific examples, comment on the examples, draw at least one conclusion. And we're looking for a very thorough and developed bit of writing here to succeed at higher. And I think with practice and lots of work, we will definitely get there. You can get this link on the PowerPoint version, or you can just Google this. If you want to see what a higher assignment looks like, you can go to the SQA Understanding Standards website, and there are, as you can see there from the screen grab, there are 7 different example assignments there for you to look at, and there's commentary as well, so you can see like which ones got high marks and which ones maybe weren't quite as successful. It's a really good learning experience, especially now when we have a little bit more time to go and maybe have a look at one and just read through what they did and then have a little look at the commentary. What about it was good? Take that on board. What about it wasn't as successful? Don't do that in your one. So you'll see what's good here is that it gives you a list of what they did. So a teaser trailer for a film that is a hybrid of horror and fantasy. So you make a wee trailer. A public information advert to raise awareness of mental health. So something a bit more documentary based. Posters for horror films targeted at 15 to 26-year-olds, women and LGBT people. Alchemy film trailer for a psychological horror film targeted at mid-teen audience. Silent Woods film trailer targeted at young adults. Institutional research for a slasher film. Self-evaluation of 2 scenes. So you'll see there that making short trailers are quite popular, and they are, they're quite fun, and you can be quite creative with them as well, even just using your phone. There are a number of films released over the last few years made by fairly well known in the industry filmmakers who made the films on their phone. Steven Soderbergh, who has made films like Ocean's 11 and I'm trying to think of something else he's made that you might have seen. Traffic? That's older than you are. You probably won't know what that is, but he made a film a few years ago with Claire Foy, who's in The Crown, called Unsane, about a woman that gets taken to a mental asylum. And I saw the movie and I was like, that's quite interesting. It's quite fun. And found out afterwards he made the whole movie on an iPhone, which is crazy. So if it's good enough for him, I'm sure we can manage to put something together. So yeah, you might want to click on the link and go have a wee look at those assignments. I would say do that at some point in May and June. Make that a task one day to go and have a little look at someone's assignment so you can see what it looks like, because we would do that in class, so always good to get a wee bit of a head start. So it says here, thanks for reading, but obviously thanks for watching and listening to me ramble on. I wish I could say that I'm only talking this much because I'm making this video, but people that were in the class last year know I like to have a gab. So there's one task already posted for Role of Media for you guys, and I'll also post that Teams code for the people who are crashing that would like to come into the crash group to do some shorter tasks to try and develop their knowledge of the Nat 5 elements that they'll need this year. If you have any questions at any time, you can just get me on that email, tweet me, or drop a message in the Teams page and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll probably be posting, I thought like one focus, one task for the first thing, that Role of Media task that's already in Teams, but I'll maybe post a few different things for you to do over our kind of next 2-week block in the second half of May, just to keep you all busy. Yes, someone can probably make a super cut of this video of all the times I've gone, but what can you do? It's happened now. So, yeah, any questions? That was another, right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.